Drystone wall part 2. In the first part I made this foundation. Now I want to stack up these rocks to a height of about 30 centimeters, 1 foot or so, onto it. It's been a few weeks since then, but I was not just lazy. I needed these exact rocks for the entrance path to our garden, which I then paved using the cobblestones you can see still lying around here in the last video, daring to try this random chaotic paving pattern. Fortunately, it worked out. Then I felt like paving and I also did this small section on the next corner of our house, mainly using the leftover porphyry from the terrace project that have such an amazing color. I really like those. Also, we had a rafter taken out of our roof for this skylight, the wood of which came in handy to cut it into posts and build another bed for the younger of my boys. So that's why I was held off this project a little, but now to finish it, because I got plenty of other DIY projects on hold. As you can see, finding the right rock or the best position of a rock can be tricky, even more so as I'm not trained in building Drystone walls and already used many of the more regular rocks for other walls, like here in our terrace for example. But sooner or later the right one can always be found and the wall grows bit by bit. Of course, this kind of building also means a lot of moving about heavy things, so I make sure to lift rocks so that most of the load is not straining my back. Sometimes I need like 10 attempts until I find an arrangement I'm content with. At other times I can positively hear rocks yelling, "Here I am," when passing them trying to find the next fitting one. Then things really get going since there's only rocks and gravity to build the wall and no mortar to be mixed or tools to be taken care of. Here I finally found the right combination for that section of the wall, and soon after it already got dark and cold, and so I called it a day. Alright, enough for today. Not too easy to find rocks with parallel sides and similar height. Alright. No masterpiece, but okay. I don't think that this tiny wall will fall over, but I will still follow some basic rules of Drystone wall building. The width of the foundation should be at least a third of the wall height. So no problem there. Using heavy rocks so that the weight is sufficient to keep the wall in place even without mortar. Oh, not too bad. A slight inclination, not only against the slope of the ground, but also leaning the wall against the inside a little in order to make up for pressure from behind, especially in wet conditions. Okay, that's not the best example here. Should be like this at least. Yeah, that's okay. Then of course, best practice in bricklaying and paving is to overlap rocks so that if possible, each gap is blocked by the rock from the row beneath. And of course, secure each rock with smaller ones so that they do not wiggle. These small stones are really important because usually every rock wiggles a little when first put onto the wall, but that means that there's a gap somewhere which then can be filled. Or very often the gap is wedge-shaped like this. Some might even say beveled. Then a gravel stone can simply be put into the gap so that it touches both rocks you want to fixate. That will do. One stone secures it in place, but can easily break over time due to heavy load or frost heave, so I usually use a lot of those, basically filling the gaps with gravel without changing the original position of the rocks. And the same goes for the vertical gaps. Okay, enough for today. Sun, finally. You know what amazes me? If you put a rock onto another, they will never touch in more than just 3 points. I know that sounds crazy. I actually talked about some aspects of this in another video, but you can see this just by considering how a body is able to move through space. In physics, we use the concept of degrees of freedom to describe how a body can move through three-dimensional space, which we happen to live in. So a body free to move has 6 such degrees of freedom, free of translation, allowing it to move along any of 3 different axes, basically up and down, back and forth, or left and right. A body can though move without going anywhere through rotation. It can rotate this way around a vertical axis, but it can also rotate this way or this way around 2 horizontal axes. Getting a new rock from the pile and thinking about how to turn it, there is no restriction to its motion, so all 6 degrees of freedom are still intact. As soon as you put it on the wall, maintaining contact with another rock, it's stuck in place. The contact point keeps it from moving away, so all the translational degrees are now gone. But you're still left with all 3 rotational degrees, so it can still move this way, or this way. Doing so, the rock will eventually hit the wall in a second spot, and these 2 contact points now define a straight line, which limits the rock's possible motions like a hinge. It can now only rotate around this straight line, which is the only axis and the only degree of freedom now left. Now turn it until it hits the wall in the 3rd spot and it's stuck completely, not able to move anymore and touching the wall in exactly 3 points. By pushing the rock and applying force, you can still alter the rock's contact points, but they will never be more than 3. These 3 points now define a plane and they also form a triangle, and the wall builder's task is now to make this triangle have as large an area as possible, because the bigger the triangle, the more stable the position of the rock, and also to make this contact plane as horizontal as possible, for this will prevent the rock from slipping off due to gravity. Okay, that was the last one, so wall's finished. Time for a little stability test. Okay, actually it's not a gymnastics equipment but a garden bed, and I still want to get my onions and garlics in for next year, so I want to fill it up with soil. Unfortunately, there is a lot of weed still in there and I don't really know how to get rid of it. My first thought would be to simply put like 10 to 15 centimeters, so half a foot of soil on top, and hope that it won't grow through. I'll try this at least with this part of the bed, but if you know better or have some other advice for me, please tell me in the comments. I still got this wire mesh from planting our fruit trees, 25 all in all, and there is a video about that too. I want to use the remainders here to keep walls out for at least 10 to 15 years before this zinc-coated mesh will have dissolved. Okay, this could take a while, so you can better log off and do something yourself. Or maybe, second best option, watch this video next. Just saying, bye!